Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Green Chat. My name is Cleeze, and as always, we talk about Pantheon Rise of the Fallen here. Today, we have Scarcity of Loot. You know, Pantheon, swords, keeping that steel harder, longer. That's a terrible... Green Chat. Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're having a great week. Sorry, the intro was super inappropriate. As always, my name is Cleeze twice, and today we're talking about Scarcity Loot in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is going to be a quickie, I feel. Usually my videos are not quick, and I dilly-dally, as I am right now. We're going to jump into it right now, talking about Scarcity Loot. What does that mean? So I built a little chart. I know I said last week I was going to try to use a pen or get some kind of drawing tool. I got my mouse. It's going to suck. Maybe it won't. So Scarcity Loot, what that's all about, why I'm even going into it, is how do you keep your swords better longer, right? When they make items in the game, how do you take an item and give it like longevity and a lot of meaning to a person? And my thing about that would be making loot rare or very rare, or making loot very scarce. And what is that? How does that affect things? I mean, you're like, hey, it just makes it more rare, sure, but how does that give it a lot of value? Yeah, maybe only 5 people have it. And if you're lucky enough to get one, you may be like, oh, I really value that. But I'm going to show you today what doing that to loot can do to a gaming environment, and how they've gotten away with, or excuse me, how they've gotten away from this, and how it's kind of really, I feel like it's wrecked the leveling experience and rating experience in a certain way. So let's get into my little drawing here. All right, here we go. Let's do this. Just so you know, I'm pretty tired, guys. So if I'm goofy or something, I might have like the tired goofs. We'll see. All right, as you can notice, I've got this lovely chart, A, B, C, D. This is going to represent 2 things in 2 ways. One's going to be leveling, one's going to be rating. Let's talk about games right now, okay? Let's talk about games. Let's say, I'm going to actually fast forward this real quick, get ready for the future. Bam, and we're in the future. Welcome to the future, boys. So A is level 10, B 20, 30, 40. Now, in games, the way it works right now is you are pretty much, if you migrate from level 10 to level 20, okay, you are going to be somehow, through questing or whatever, pretty much brought to the point right here of having almost a full set of level 20 gear. No matter how long it takes you to level, you know, quick or short, somehow they always manage that now. That seems to be like a development scheme. And you could say that plays out. There's always a little assister somewhere right before you get to new brackets to kind of help you stay in the groove. Maybe there's a quest that always gives you like a weapon, and then the gear just kind of drops like very, very lovely. And that's kind of how it works out in games right now, okay? That is super simple flow of... Basically, loot is not that rare. It's not that individual. Why should you have that? Because you're just leveling, right? But yeah, so the game keeps you intentionally locked in to your areas. Very rarely will you see somebody at level 30 using like a level 15 item these days. I mean, you can think back and, you know, think in your head, that used to happen all the time. Sometimes you'd be, you know, people would be like, oh man, I'm still trying to replace that at level 40. Like, they finally get that thing and they're like, oh dang, finally. All right, so that's a leveling of today. I'm just going to kind of breeze through this because who cares about today? We all know about today. All right, so now let's move on to rating. This is rating of today. This one's going to be a little bit more detailed. Okay, so you have rate A, B, C, and D. You could say this is tier 1. Let's do the fast forward thing again real quick. Boom, fast forwarding. Now check it out. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, relative to the letters. Sorry, I write like I'm a 5th grader. Actually, 5th graders could probably do a better job than me. So here we go. I got to kind of reference my notes here. But in today's rating, you know, you'll have a starting point, right? So you'll get dungeons and stuff like that. Will give you entrance into raid A, right? Okay. And then some time will go on. You're like, oh, this is so fun. We're raiding. You're trying to build up your character. Some people blow through it on like the first week, and you're like, oh, it's over for them. You know, some people take like months. All right. Time goes by. After some time, right? You have like usually an intermission, you know, and then raid B, tier 2 comes out. And what they do is they either nerf raid A, or they give you some kind of mechanic outside the raid to catch yourself up to that position, okay? And this is sometimes not even raid gear, it's just something to help you. Either they right, it could be raid gear, but they nerf raid A to get you the gear, or they use something outside the raid to get you ready to leapfrog into the next tier, and then you enjoy that for a while. You're like, oh, this is fun. And then rarely do you have a reason to return to raid A at this time. So with that, the cycle continues. You go through B, you get here, the game helps you out, you get into C, etc. Now, sometimes they have like the most epic raid that's last. They may delay this right here, this catch up for between C and D and stuff like that. I kind of noticed that, they try to at least give some exclusivity to some of their content. And this is today, guys. Again, this is just today. This is how raids are kind of designed today. And there's this leapfrog effect, so to speak. And the game helps you move into each tier at some point over time, right? Time is the big thing. Like, given enough time, you can get into whatever raid. And then also, let's say you start really late. Let's say we're on raid C, like tier 3's out, and you just hit the first level. You can kind of just jump. My screen's in the way, sorry. Whoop, you can kind of jump along, following this exterior way of leveling, or just going into the nerfed raid C, right? And getting up to this point and then jumping into raid D, which is, the be all. So that is in a nutshell what we got today. Okay, and that would be the opposite example of scarcity of loot. They are pretty much just throwing it at you to enjoy their content. And there's plenty of good reasons to do this. There really is, in some games. If that's your thing, and it's turned out to be very popular, in a sense, for your baseline consumer, like the mass, I guess. Because, like, Final Fantasy kind of does this, World of Warcraft definitely does this, Guild Wars 2 definitely does this. Star Wars The Old Republic, I have no idea about that game, but I'm sure it does this too. This is kind of the flow, and I kind of made this up myself. Hopefully I'm not plagiarizing somebody else's work. I'm sure there's other people out here who's made stupid charts like this, but I kind of just came up with this, and that's how I feel. Maybe you feel differently. Today's rating scene is. All right, let's bring Pantheon into this now. I think Pantheon, what they're going to be trying to do is, they've told, or, Brad McQuaid, I love saying that name. I say that in like almost every one of my videos. They have decided, or they have openly expressed that it's going to be their intention to bring in meaning back to their loot. Okay, like the sword you get that short sword of Ikisha, you can be like, dang. Or that mithril two-handed longsword. I think it's called that. Might get that level 12 and be like, dang, I'm so cool. I think that's a magical weapon. Anyway, this is what it does, okay? All right, so basically, I didn't put equals, but A is 20, A is 10, B is 20, 30, 40. Bam, those are the levels. Now, this is what scarcity of loot can do, all right? Get ready for this, all right? Let's say you're level 10, and you don't get everything you wanted from level 10, and you're now level 20. Let's say, like, there's still a couple of items hanging out there that you really want, okay? And then, but you're not going to stop, right? You're going to keep going. You're going to progress, because usually at this time, your abilities is what really drives your character. The team play, the dynamics, how well you play your character is way more important, because, yeah, the gear will really help you out, but it doesn't necessarily bar you from joining groups. Groups aren't going to like inspect your gear and be like, what? Oh man, oh my gosh, because they don't do it anyways. You're leveling, but again, maybe here they will, but we'll see about that. We'll kind of see what Terminus has in mind for us. But I'm just going to continue to use this as an example. So you're going to continue on and work your way towards 30. Now at this point, you still may want some stuff from 10, and you want stuff from 20. And you're in 30s now. What this is going to cause you to do, or indirectly drive you to do, man, I drew these too high, is in your 30s, you're going to be more interested at going back, right, into the 20s even, or maybe even into the 15 range. Now, I can already kind of see where you may be thinking like, well, dude, that's going to be lame, because what are the 15 guys doing now? right? But this is really going to be a group-driven game in the sense that even sometimes level 30s have a hard time breaking camps that are level 15 by themselves, right? So it's important to understand that. And what Scarcity Loot can do is drive, basically gives you much more like, versus just being like, okay, you're in the level 10 area, you're in the level 20 area, you're level 30 area now. Welcome to 40, welcome to 50, 60. You know, it's kind of like this, I don't know, ride the lazy wave. You're gonna have more interesting like choices to do for what you're looking for your character to improve it, to move on, or to build it up. Now, you may be sacrificing experience to go to the 15 area if that item is that important to you. And that's where you have to make these choices. And that's kind of what Scarcity Loot does. It drives choices into the experience. It also gets you to a point where, you know, you may acquire a sword at 15 and carry it all the way to 35. That sounds ridiculous. Let's say 25 or like 30, right? And sorry, I'm just kind of like off the cuff here. But you kind of see where I'm getting with this. It's starting to look like one of those football things, which I hate. I just realized that. But leveling, I'm looking at leveling, and I really don't have this fleshed out because there's a lot of like, oh boy, there's a lot of things in here I could see that I wouldn't like. But at the same time, I think I would prefer this over like, okay, you're level 10, and then okay, now you're level 20. Here's all your free loot, 30 free loot, 43 free loot. And usually games like that usually focus on the story, and if the story's kind of lit down, and that's for Final Fantasy. I'm recently been playing that. They really focus on the story, and I think it's freaking great, right? And that really works out good for them. And I would actually be frustrated in Final Fantasy having to go backwards, even though you kind of do anyways with like daily roulettes and stuff. But I think in Pantheon, where leveling is going to be a large part of the experience, a very focused part of the experience, this would be very beneficial to the player base. Also, it gets you, the experienced players can help the lower level players because they're going to need them to achieve and break those camps to get that gear that they're interested in, you know, and they have to, of course, roll off and stuff like that. And again, they're going to make a sacrifice to go that far back. That's pretty far back. I would say, you know, you have the options to go 10 levels. Excuse me, I've got too many lines here. You have the option to go 10 levels in either direction. Usually, mobs will usually give you experience, or you're just looking for that item. That's just a leveling thing. Again, not really fleshed out with a leveling deal, but Scarcity Loot will drive more options. Okay? Now let's move on to the raiding. Okay? All right, raid scene, Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Boom, let's do it. Let's raid scene this up. Let's just assume, as we have this entire time, A is tier 1, B tier 2, C 3, D 4. Okay? Now, remember last time what I said, the game kind of helped you out with a little catch-up mechanic in between to get you into each one, right? Okay, so with Scarcity of Loot, this is where it gets better. Maybe, you know, if anything, please have Scarcity Loot with raiding, all right? So, starting point, as usual, you'll have dungeons, okay? Dungeons will get you into Raid A, okay? You're in Raid A. You're raiding, having a good time. Yay! And then Raid B comes out. Don't put any catch up, okay? The players that have spent a really good amount of time getting to Raid B. They're like, yo, we're super cool, guys. So some people move on to Raid B, okay? Some people stay in Raid A. They're still working on it. Maybe they can kill like the first couple bosses, or like, because these are going to, you know, Pantheon's rating is going to be a little different, I'm assuming, than what we're all used to. I mean, it's going to be maybe a little bit more old school. Not really sure. We'll have to see. Is it going to be like out in the world and stuff? But, you know, you may be able to at least attack some higher level bosses that have maybe more simple mechanics, or maybe more complex mechanics, but they don't have as much or as intense, what do you call it, like thresholds for damage or healing or tanking ability, right? So you can pick up some stuff like that and help yourself through, basically through B, or doing some stuff in B can help you achieve what you haven't achieved in Raid A area, whatever, okay? And then also, if the loot is very rare, by the time you're ready to move on to Raid B, a lot of your guildies will still need gear from Raid A. So it gives you a reason to run Raid A and Raid B when Raid B is out. And this is what happened when I was in a big raiding feed in Vanilla WoW. you wouldn't just stop, right? You would raid A, because you could easily clear it now, get your guys, keep fleshing out your raid team, and then go into B, and then really hit the wall, and that's where you put in the time, right? So you could so anybody coming into the raid scene really would have an easy time, because this is actually what happened to me, is I joined a guild, and they would just plow through A, and now we're in B, having a hard time. So that's kind of what it does. And then let's say now raid C comes out, okay? Now raid C is out. Maybe at this point you could nerf raid A a little bit if you wanted to, but even if you didn't want to nerf it yet, you're still going to keep grabbing more gear from raid B, just have that ability to do so, with enough players, and then you can start whacking out more of raid A, all right? So eventually you will clear raid A, and then you move on to raid B, and then to C. But what's interesting is with raid C, you still, because of scarcity of loot, again, I kind of left that out at the beginning of this, because the loot is scarce, okay? Because it's not dropping like left and right. You may be still looking for loot items from raid A, even though you're in raid C, okay? And it keeps you more engaged with the content, all right? Oh, look at all these arrows, they suck. You see what I'm saying here? This is kind of where I'm going for it. But now let's say raid, let's clear some stuff. So I cleared it out. Let's just redo this real quick. Boop, 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 boop. So right now, let's say you finally move into raid D. Now raid D may only be, maybe so far ahead now that you may only need something from raid C. Like if you're missing it from raid A and B, it's pointless to go back there just because of how diminished those items are relative to C. And if you're already in D, you don't need to go back that far, right? But it still gives you, you're doing more of the content more often, and you kind of earn it better when the loot is more rare. And then also when you earn this stuff, it doesn't, this whole stupid thing they used to do where they put these catch-up mechanics in, the game does this. Oh my god, I'm suck at writing. The game, wow. Ooh. So I just got derailed. But what the game does, they put in this little catch-up mechanic here. It doesn't undervalue what people have gotten from raid A, B, C, with this catch-up business, right? So it kind of keeps the loot valuable the whole time, and then you've earned it, and that doesn't really go away ever. And that's the way raiding used to kind of be, and I thought it worked really well. I really enjoyed it. I spent a ton of time in raid A and B, like when I first started raiding in games, and to be at the top raid, you had to be like some super duper guy. But that's really my take on scarcity loot and what it can do into raids. And it gives playability to content that otherwise is kind of swept from under you. Also gives you value to your gear, right? By keeping things that you basically had to earn it, right? You have to earn it to get it. Like if you don't nerf the raids, you gotta earn it to get it, and you walk around with it. It's great, because a lot of times the guys in raid D are like, oh, and they see guys in raid A gear and they're like, that was just nerfed. And it kind of downplays those people's achievements too. Maybe they needed that nerf and that's what it took, and it kind of just makes it lame for everybody. And I don't know. I mean, maybe not so much. Maybe they can nerf it and it'd be fine. Maybe just a bit. But at the same time, if you start earning, gear from raid B, it can really help you with raid A. That's usually what happens, every time. And you can keep the gear. Excuse me, you can have that meaning behind your character and what's on them and what it represents, and not have it really heavily devalue like it is now. I guess I'm saying the same thing twice. But that's really my point. That is scarcity to loot in a nutshell. Boom. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. That's scarcity to loot. Sorry if I rambled a bit. Didn't really want to ramble, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Share it with a broski. Or, when you go on a date, when you sit in the bar, you're like, hey, what's up? You check out Pantheon Rise of Fallen lately? You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, you can both attack that pickup line. It's worked wonders, I've heard, for many people. If that pickup line actually works, definitely let me know. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you again really soon.